Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's continue our game of Iwaihime on PC.
これで我はあとは口を開けて待つのみぞ。
Rydia was already an extension of myself at this point. She merely had to call Suzumu Susahara over, tear out his guts, and take all his soot. My sisters couldn't complain about that. I was the most suitable one to bring about the calamity. I would be the one to bring peace to brother soul.
それにしても人に風情のたやすいことと言ったら、思い人の影を見せるだけでああもたやすく心を明け渡すとは。
The shadow of Suzumu smirked maliciously. Though a perfect replica of Suzumu on the outside, he couldn't be any more different under the surface. In reality, he was merely an aggregation of malevolent spirits gathered and merged by the divine curse.
影の病、己に出会ったら死ぬ呪い。リリア、そなたの命運は我に出会った時すでに尽きておるわ。そして鈴原鈴む、そなたの影もまたここにある。
ああ、妬ましい妬ましい妬ましい。聖者のぬくもりが妬ましくて妬ましくて、頭がどうにかなっちまいそうだ。
じきにあやつも生き肝を引きずり出されて生きた屍よ。聖者のぬくもりとやらを存分に味わい、冥府の凍える寒さを思い知らせて取り殺してやるがよかろうぞ。
ああ妬ましい妬ましい。
Nothing about Lydia seemed off to anyone who passed her in the hallway. Her eyes were gleaming brilliantly, her every step brimming with confidence. But things were completely different on the inside. She had been completely possessed by the divine curse. But none would ever pick up on that, of course.
先輩、まだ部室にいるかな。二人きりで秘密の相談があるって言ったらドキドキしてくれるかな。
Rydia giggled. The power of the divine curse dwelled in her hand. If she touched someone on the nape of their neck, the curse would flood into them. Then their soul would be sealed in darkness and be turned into a living puppet at the divine curse's beck and call. After that, the brainwashed Suzumu would do whatever Rydia asked and march towards his own execution.
鈴む、たった今お手洗いに行ったよ。ありがとうございます。ありゃりゃ、おトイレまで押しかける気？リリアン大胆。いた？
あれ、リリアちゃん？
先輩。
Lydia's eyes flashed scarlet for a moment. The curse's power coursed through her palm.
先輩。
何？
ちょっと相談に乗ってほしいことがあるんです。
僕で力になれるのなら。
嬉しいです。それでできれば誰も絶対に来ないところで話を聞いてほしいんです。
今夜電話で話す？
いえ、できれば直接。
いいよ。いつ？
ご迷惑でなければ今。
構わないけど廊下ってわけにはいかないよね。
それならご安心を。いい場所をすでに見つけてありますので。
いい場所って学校の中のこ
はい。寄宿舎なら誰も来ませんので。今の時期合宿をやってる部活もありませんので好都合なんです。
と？でも鍵とかかかってるんじゃないかな。
Though Suzumu appeared thick-headed, even he was noticing how off this sounded. He seemed somewhat suspicious of Lydia's sudden request. But Lydia slowly snaked her arm around his back, like a reptile soundlessly approaching its prey. And then she made her strike.
リリアちゃん？
Suzumu's body twitched the moment Lydia touched the back of his neck. After convulsing for a while, he stared blankly at the ceiling, his mouth agape.
先輩、私と寄宿舎へ行きましょう。
Suzumu nodded and did as he was told. Lydia coaxed him gently and took his hand in hers, almost as though she were a nurse guiding a patient of unsound mind. Suzumu's eyes were devoid of light. He was already a living puppet.
私、先輩がすっごく喜んでくれること教えてもらったんです。とっても恥ずかしいことだけれど、先輩が気持ちよくなってくれるなら私頑張りますから。先輩のタプタプにたまった苦くてしょっぱいおつゆ、私全部すすり出してごっくんって飲んであげますからね。
Lydia entered the dorm with Suzumu and locked the door behind her. Thanks to the power of the divine curse, no one else would be capable of entering the dorm now.
ここなら誰も来ないです。
The room had already transformed into another world, connecting the human realm and the realm of those not human. Once Suzumu entered the room and shut the door, the scenery warped. A fell whirlwind engulfed the room, staining everything in sight pitch black. The area transfigured into a snowfield of falling soot in the blink of an eye.
さすがの鈴原鈴音も我が呪いの前にはなすすべも
ねたましい。お前のその生きたぬくもり、ねたましい。
肝を抜かれた後はお前の好きにするがいいぞ。だがまずは こやつの体を貪るはそこの娘からよ。
先
さあリリアよ、時は来たれる。今こそその男をお前だけのものにする時、じきに赤となって消え去るお前はその男の寵愛を永遠とすることで永遠に生きることができるのだ。
Lydia's palm shone ominously. She slowly reached out for Suzumu. She undid his buttons, exposing his bare chest. No human could resist the gift of pleasure not of this world. Lydia brought her hand towards Suzumu's stomach, her fingers wriggling obscenely. But just as she was about to touch it, her arm stopped. For Suzumu had it locked tight in his grasp.
リリアちゃんの孤独な辛さに僕が救いになるのなら、僕はいくらでも君のために力になれるから。
Suzumu's eyes gained their fierce shine. The divine curse couldn't believe what she was seeing.
バカな、お前はもう生き人形のはずなのに。
リリアちゃんの手が近づいた時、彼女の例えようもないほどの孤独な悲しみが流れ込んできた。
先輩、
その気持ちを共有したくて、リリアちゃんの辛さを心から受け止めたくて、僕はあえてお前の呪いとやらを受けたんだ。
あえてだと。
人である以上誰だって悲しみは背負ってる。でもそれを背負ってなお歩き続けられる強さが人間にはあるんだ。リリアちゃん、君は美しいくらいに強いんだよ。
私ここは
Rydia was gradually released from the curse. The divine curse herself was rendered speechless. All her plans had come to ruin.
ここはどこですか？先輩が二人マジカルリリー？
落ち着いて。ここはきっと君の心の中の世界。そして僕は本当の鈴原鈴で、そこにいるのは君と僕の姿を模した悪意ある呪いの苦言だ。
貴様、一体。
でも僕は神の呪いとやらに一つだけ感謝することがあるんだ。
反射だと。
リリアちゃんの悲しみを理解させてくれてありがとう。
先輩、
彼女がどれほどの孤独と悲しみの中をたった一人で力強く生きてきたか、それをお前たちのおかげで僕は心の底から理解できる。そして怒りだ。彼女の強さを砕き、悲しみの傷に塩を塗るような真似を重ね、彼女の心を押しつぶしてお前の邪悪の駒にしようとしたこと。それだけでも許しがたいけれど、僕が真に怒ることは彼女が救いを見出した僕の姿を模して彼女を追い詰めたこと。これが僕の感謝と怒りだ。
Susumu lowered his hips and readied his fist. There was no mistaking it. That was the fist of the Susahara divine tribute style, which was to be offered unto God. The power to crush evil dedicated to God for 1,000 years became a whirlwind and burst out all over Susumu's body.
悲しみが知りたくてあえて我が呪いを受けたと。そして我が呪いを受けておきながら心を保ち続けたと。貴様、本当にただの人間なのか。
ああ、妬ましい、妬ましい。その生きる者の放つ輝きが妬ましい。僕の姿を模して彼女を傷つけたこと、それを僕は絶対に許しはしない。妬ましい、妬ましい、妬ましい。
The thing disguised as Susumu distorted ominously in the face of that sheer power. Normally, residents of the mortal realm had no means of physically interacting with evil spirits, but here they could be touched and killed. In this world, it was possible for humans to feel the utter malice these evil spirits possessed. Raising a cry that rent the soul, that creature of malice charged straight at Susumu. Swiftly enough to outpace one's shadow, a speed no human could possibly follow with their eyes. Susumu couldn't see it either. No, its movements were beneath his notice. Susumu had constantly dedicated his fist to God before giant trees or bells. With his eyes widened and his mind honed to its limits, the speed of a wholly evil presence was no different than the immobile trees Susumu had used in his training.
覇者検証、邪悪を打ち破りて正しきを示す。
The evil spirits taking Susumu's form turned to soot and scattered across the pitch-black snowfield. Much like evil spirits could directly exert their malice on humans in this realm, so too could humans directly exert their strength on them. Susumu had crushed them in just one punch. The divine curse was stunned at Susumu's composure. It was enough to make her tremble.
そなたは一体。
今のは怒りの拳だ。君には感謝の拳を捧げる。
赤の人鬼ごときがこの我に神の呪いをうがつというのか。
先輩、
リリーちゃん、マジカルリリーの姿もまたもう一人の君なんだ。そのもう一人の君の姿を打つことを今だけ許してほしい。
やっつけて、そいつを、マジカルリリーを私の世界から消し去って。
覇者検証、邪悪を打ち破りて正しきを示す。
神の呪いを恐れぬ不届き者め、試すがよいぞそなたの拳。我が身をうがつか否か試してみるがよい。
はあ
Rydia moaned in agony as she fell to her knees. Suzumu halted his punch and pulled back as soon as he realized what happened. He had continued and struck the divine curse with all his might. Or had he continued and struck the divine curse with all his might, he might have destroyed Rydia from the inside out.
リリアちゃん。
愚かなり人にね、我の姿を見誤ったか。
そうか。お前はリリアちゃんの姿を、マジカルリリーの姿を模しているだけじゃないのか。
我もリリアも同じ人間よ。我を撃つはその女を撃つも同じこと。なのにその我を消し去れという愚かな女め。契約の条件とはいえ、罵るそなたも哀れよな。失われている記憶を返してやろう。思い返すがいいリリアよ。そなたがマジカルリリーをやめ、仕事を失った日々のこと。
A black blizzard engulfed Rydia and Suzumu. It called back her sealed memories. I want it back. I want to be Magical Lily again. I hate this body. I want my adorable, dainty little body back again. On the day she made that heartfelt cry, the divine curse appeared to her and whispered thus.
そなたの魂を我に捧げるなら、その願いを叶えてやる。さすがにそなたはまるで赤が離れるように、そなたの望む姿に戻ることができる。ただし、そなたの姿は失われ、その魂も失われ。そしてそれを我と契約した記憶さえも失われるが、それでもよい。
魂でも何でも捧げますから。私を消してマジカルリリーに生まれ変わらせて。
我の姿はそやつの望んだこと。そしてそやつの姿はやがて赤のごとくうつしおより剥がれ落ち、消えてなくなる。後に残るは我のこの姿だけ。喜べリリア、そなたの願いはじきに叶おうぞ。
そんなあなたがいるのは私が望んだことなの。そんなことって。
Suzumu's forehead beaded with sweat. Though he was calm and collected, he didn't know how he could turn the situation around. The divine curse represented by Lily's appearance was the one eating away at Lydia. However, she was also Lydia herself. Just like she'd said, punching her would mean punching Lydia. In other words, he couldn't strike her.
ようやく理解できたようだな、鈴原鈴む。確かに 我が呪いをいともたやすく跳ね返したそなたの力には驚かされた。なるほど、1000年をただ打眠で過ごしていたというわけではないようだ。神を打つ拳を得たようだが、それも取ろう。我はリリー、すなわちそこなる女の分身。神は打てても女は打てまい、すす原涼。
She was right. Suzumu could never choose to destroy the divine curse if it meant punching Lydia. He had to strike the divine curse to save her, but he couldn't do that if it resulted in Lydia's own death too. Sweat dripped down Suzumu's face. Upon seeing this, the divine curse realized Suzumu had hit a dead end.
退屈な1000年を報いるには十分な余興であったぞ。茶番はこれにてお開きとしようではないか。
The doe raised her palm to the heavens, and a moment later, a twisted lump of metal sprouted out from it. It was a hammer. A giant hammer ominously coated in faded blood.
この土にて二人まとめて叩きつぶし、すりつぶし、肉と臓物の切れ端の塊に変えてくれる。そなたの生き肝を引きずり出した後は、せめて二人とも混ぜ合わせてまんじゅうに変えて食らってやろうぞ。
The giant hammer struck the ground like lightning. Suzumu's body was racked with abject terror. His whole body quaked. The fear shook him to his very bones. The sweat dripping from his face expressed just how precarious his predicament was. On his own, he might have been able to do something against that giant hammer, but Lydia was here. The nigh incomprehensible reality had left her stunned. She started muttering to herself that this was all a nightmare, her mental defenses working to protect her mind. It was impossible. She couldn't defend herself. She would be crushed by the hammer. Her fate was already set in stone. There was only one way to avert that. To settle this once and for all before that fate could come to pass. The only way Suzumu could save them was to dedicate his fist and punch the divine curse. But that would affect Lydia too. Suzumu was well aware his fist had enough power to kill someone, meaning they were out of options. He had to strike, but couldn't. It seemed the divine curse understood that as well. She dragged the hammer while slowly approaching them, jeering at their plight. She was but a few steps away. Suzumu needed to come up with a plan in that span of time to find a weak point to exploit. Just then, Lydia started laughing hopelessly.
嬉しいな。嬉しいな。私はいよいよマジカルリリーに戻れるんだ。
Her eyes were glazed over. She was losing her sanity. And yet, they were also damp.
嬉しいな。嬉しいな。またマジカルリリーに戻れるんだ。私、これでやっとみんなが化け物っていうこの体を捨てられるんだ。
化け物なもんか。布川リリアは、クルスリリアは気高くて美しいじゃないか。
そんなこと言ってる人見たことないよ。みんなリリーの頃は良かった、天使だったってみんな言うよ。あの頃は良かった。みんな私のことを可愛くて素敵だって 褒めてくれた。なのに今はみんな悪口ばっかり。私はそんなの嫌だよ。
みんながそういうわけじゃないよ。クルス・リリアの頑張りをちゃんと認めてくれてる人だっている。
いないよ。そんな人いないの知ってるもん。レッスン頑張った。ダンスも演技もみんな頑張ってるのに、誰も認めてくれない。だから思ったの。今思う。心から思う。クルス・リリアなんていらない。私なんて今すぐ死んじゃえばいいんだ。そうすればマジカル・リリーだけが残る。もう誰にも悪口を書かれなくて済む。
リリアちゃん、
潰して私を。マジカル・リリー。
それでよい。よくぞ達観したリリアよ。せめて最後くらい愛しい人間と抱き合いながら行くがよい。二人の血肉は混じり合い一つとなるであろうぞ。
先輩は初めて会った時から私とリリーを見分けてくれていました。私をリリーの残りカスだなんて思わずに接してくれました。そんな先輩が私の心の唯一の救いでした。そんな先輩が好きです。大好きです。だから消える時だけでも一つになってください。その胸に私の顔をうずめさせてください。お願い。
リリアちゃん。
貴様は女の最後の頼みも聞けぬふぬけか、鈴原鈴よ。我は無慈悲ではない。二人まとめて痛みさえ感じさせずに一撃のもとに潰してやろうぞ。
先輩。
Suzumu nodded.
おいでリリアちゃん。
最後くらい呼び捨てで呼んでほしい。
おいでリリア。
先輩。
Lydia spread her arms and slowly approached Suzumu. He embraced her, but just as she was about to bury her face in his chest, he let go.
最後じゃない。クルス・リリアの活躍をこれからも応援したい人間が大勢いるから。だからこれで最後なんかにはならない。
なればどうするというのか、鈴原鈴。我を撃つか。撃てばリリアも死ぬ。
撃つのはお前じゃない。
何。
Suzumu lowered his hips and readied his fist. The keen glint in his eye was aimed not at a divine curse, but Lydia.
ごめんねリリアちゃん。君に必ず信じさせてあげるから。 我慢して。神の呪いは君の心の傷に寄生しているだけだ。そしてその心の傷を生み続けさせている真の元凶は君自身にあるんだ。
The divine curse instantly paled. He'd done it. Susumu had seen through the true source of the curse that birthed her current form.
貴様、元凶ってどういうことですか？
今はごめん。歯を食いしばって。
Susumu prepared to strike Rydia. Utterly lost, Lydia could only stare with confusion. The divine curse frantically raised her hammer, but she was too late. Compared to Susumu's dedication to God, her strike was painfully slow.
覇者検証、邪悪を打ち破りて正しきを示す。
させるか
Susumu launched a punch directed at Rydia's chest. Did that strike pulverize her organs and bones? Susumu did indeed feel something shatter, but he'd stopped his fist right before it could hit Lydia's body. Instead, he shattered something she kept close to her chest. It was the cause and source of the curse that birthed Lily. Lily threw her head back with a scream. Her appearance faded away, turning into Rydia with the antlers of the sacred deer.
バカな、見破るとは、見破るとは。
改めてもう一度報じるよ。彼女の悲しみを教えてくれてありがとう。彼女の心に訴えるこの機会を与えてくれてありがとう。
そなたは一体神の呪いが効かず、そして神をうがつ拳を持つだと。その光はどうして。
君は彼女の心の痛みへの水先案内導いてくれてありがとう。僕にあるのはただ感謝よ。
バカな。我こそは六神彦の御事の呪いなり。その我がなぜ人に不正に。
覇者検証、邪悪を打ち破りて正しきを示す。
Susumu's fist glowed with a heavenly shine. Even the divine curse could not help but falter before its radiance.
兄上様のご無念を晴らせず、このようなところで散らねばならぬなど。許されぬ、許されぬ。
The soot snowfield cleared up little by little. Before long, it had turned back into the room at the dorm. I was still in a daze. While I was used to harrowing daydreams, this was the first time I'd shared one with someone else, with Susahara. Thus I knew without a doubt it had been no daydream, but rather something that actually happened.
リリーは消えたんですか？
消えないよ。消えるも何もリリーだって君なんだから。
そうですよね。
I lowered my head a little. I'd likely continue to have daydreams about Lily. Susahara had indeed struck down something ghastly, but Magical Lily's shadow would continue to torment me for a long time to come.
リリーは君の大切な分身なんだ。怯える必要も憎む必要も何もないんだよ。でも君はリリーを逃げるために使っていたんだ。
逃げる？
ネットで無責任な人たちがかつての君が良かった良かったと言い続ける。だから君はマジカルリリーになれば悪口を言われずに済むと思ってリリーに逃げ込もうとしていたんだ。
私そんなつもり。
I couldn't deny it. He was probably right on the dot. I wanted to be Magical Lily because I desired recognition, because I didn't want to hear people badmouth me anymore.
承認欲求は人間なら誰もが持つ自然な欲求よ。恥ずかしくなんかないの。
雛形先生。
布川さん、あなたは誰よりも努力家だから、その努力を誰かに認められたいと願うのは当然のことなのよ。でも匿名で無責任に喋ることができる昨今は怖いわね。人を褒めるよりもけなす方が楽しくて賑やかだから、いい評価は埋もれてしまう。あなたに届くことはない。
Noticing an odd sensation in my chest, I reached into my breast pocket and found my smartphone, its screen smashed into pieces.
壊しちゃってごめんね。でも今のリリアちゃんにはない方がいいと思ったんだ。
まあそうですよね。痛々しい掲示板ばっか眺めて毎日落ち込んでるだけですものね。
先生。
Miss Hinagata took out her own phone, played around with it for a few moments, then showed it to me. It was someone's blog. Lydia's performance was amazing. I was surprised how much better her dancing has gotten. I feel like I'm discovering a new side of her she didn't have back when she was Magical Lily. It'd be a disservice to keep calling her Magical Lily. From now on, Lydia Kurisu has my full support.
他にもあるわよ。見る？
はい。
Diamonds among all the coal. The internet might be a breeding ground for slander, but at the same time, there were indeed people out there rooting for me who recognized how hard I'd worked. But I only saw the bad, and so I became death to their encouragement.
あなたの努力、ちゃんと見てくれてる人たちがいるわよ。これらはみんな、鈴原くんが見つけてきてくれたの。不慣れだったスマホを頑張って使いこなしてね。
先輩。
君の代わりに僕が応援してくれる人たちの声を伝えるから。だからその役目を僕に任せてはくれないかな。
つまりネットはもう二度と見るなってことですよね。
しばらくの話よ。あなたはもともととても強い子なんだから。その力強さを取り戻せるまでの間、しばらくネットはお休みということね。
その代わり僕が毎日リリアちゃんを応援してくれる人たちを探すよ。君を応援してくれている人がたくさんいるんだってこと、きっと信じさせてあげるから。
My eyes welled up with tears, but not from sorrow, not anymore.
応援してくれる人のブログとかコメントとか拾ってくれるのも嬉しいですけど、それに 先輩の応援もプラスしてくれたら納得しようかなって思います。
それは大変ね。リリアちゃんのステージちゃんと全部見ないとね。
お金足りるかな。
スタッフチケットとかあるんでしょ。それくらい手配してあげなさいよ。だって鈴原君はもうあなたの心のマネージャーさんなんだから。
そういえば先生、いつからいたんですか？いいタイミングで話に加わってきたんで不思議だと思ってたんですけど。
ああ、それよそれ。聞いて聞いて。校内を巡回してたらね、なんと男子生徒と女子生徒が人気のない寄宿舎に入っていくのを見ちゃったのよ。いかがわしいことがあるといけないわって思ってね、現場に突入しちゃったわけなのよ。ほらほら、これがリリアちゃんが男子を寄宿舎に引き込むところの写真。ほらほら、二人きりで女子の部屋にいる写真もあるのよ。
すっごく誤解を生む写真です。削除してください。
うん、無論削除はするけど、リリアちゃんに一つだけお願いが。
はいはい、脅迫ですね。交換条件は何ですか？
乱気流のライブチケット、いい席が手に入らない？
はいはい、うちの事務所のイケメンユニットですね。了解です。手配します。あ、その代わり削除する前にその写真印刷してもらうことってできますか？
いいわよ。
After that, Lydia switched to a traditional flip phone. It only functioned as a phone. She couldn't access the internet. Meanwhile, she'd also sealed away her computer in her closet. It felt suffocating at first, but before long she was happier than she'd been in a while.
邪魔ね。昨日のステージでのコメントは拾ってあります？
うん、お気に入りに登録してあるよ。はい、どうぞ。
先輩の感想テキストがないですよ。いっぱい書いてくれたでしょうね。
頑張っていっぱい書いたよ。でも一昨日と同じステージだし、毎日の感想は大変だな。
もうしっかりしてくださいよ先輩。あ、これ次の土日のチケットです。絶対両方来てくださいね。
さすがはグレートススハラ。リリアちゃんのマネージャーを任されるとは。
でもね、リリアちゃん、スズムはあなたの奴隷じゃないんだよ。奴隷なんてとんでもない。むしろ奴隷なのは私です。見かけによらず腹黒な先輩の罠にかかって、マネージャーにしないとこの写真をばらまくぞって脅されて。いやー、なにこれなにこれ、スズム、どういうこと？なにこれ、どういうことよスズム。なんでリリアちゃんと相引きしてる写真があるのよ。
え、何の話？
この写真をばらまかれたら私の芸能人生命はおしまいです。ああ、だから私は鈴原先輩の言いなりに。先輩は一日中私につきまとって、隙があれば私を慰み者に。
鈴原裏山けしからぬ。
何？なんでみんな僕を見てるの？何の話？
あ、初田先輩、窓の外を見てください。あれってウルトラレアカードじゃないですか？
なんだって？どこに？
Right when Natsuya ran over to the window, Lydia leaned forward and kissed Suzumu's lips when his guard was down. Tsubakiko and Kane were rendered speechless, their mouths agape. Suzumu stared in bewilderment as his mind processed what had just happened.
不本意ながらこれも脅迫されてやってるんです。一日一回キスを捧げないとあの写真をばらまかれちゃうんです。ゆゆゆゆゆ。
スズムあんたね、女の敵腹黒、話を聞かせなさい。
何のことか本当にわからないよ。痛い痛い。リリアちゃん、笑ってないで助けてよ。
やるね。オイラたちに宣戦布告ってこと？まあそう受け取ってもらっても結構です。
Please keep watching me, Susahara. Lydia Kurusu is out there performing for you and you alone. And in time, I'll make sure to steal your heart so you won't be able to look away from me. Well, we have come to the end of one of the many endings in the game. We'll find out if we can go back automatically and look at the other characters' endings, or if we have to reload our save. I will say, in general, I do like the story very much. I think the artwork and the voice acting are all top-notch. I will say, however, there are portions, very, very large portions of the story, which tend to drag on or repeat information which you are already well aware of and have established over and over and over again. Generally, I find that lots of Japanese visual novels do this sort of information repetition. I guess they feel that most readers are incredibly thick. In fact, I would probably say that these chapters could potentially shrink to at least 3/4 of their current size. Some portions are just too long and too repetitious, giving us information which we have already accepted and connected together. So it is not necessarily a problem with just this visual novel, but as the whole, the Japanese visual novel industry tends to think of their reader as a very dumbed down audience, so they feel that lots of repetition is necessary. I think with a fair amount of editing, then this could be a much tighter script and could be even more enjoyable. As it is, I can't see myself playing through this visual novel again all the way through, mainly because there are so many portions of it that drag on and feel more like a chore to read than something that's truly enjoyable. With that being said, the first journey, I think, is one worth taking, and I highly encourage folks to pick this visual novel up for themselves. You can purchase this through Steam and through some of the normal Japanese visual novel websites. There is no R18 patch. This is presented in its teen-rated original, although I believe it's rated mature here in the States, but the approximate ratings are different in the original Japanese rating system. I'll say probably the toughest part to read would be the caterpillar sequence, which is why I did cut it out for this long form review. If you want to read that on your own, of course, please purchase the game and support the developer and the publisher. Most folks know the original author as the author of the When They Cry series, which unfortunately took 14 years to come over here officially. So it's nice to see something that was released within the year, at least, to come over to this side of the publishing, hemisphere. It was an enjoyable ride, even though I certainly do have criticisms of it. I don't think that would necessarily ever stop me from purchasing it or recommending it to folks.
あやつは一体鈴原進む何者
そなたの無念とすす我が鹿と引き受けようぞ鈴原進むめ我ら神の呪いは打ち破るとはそなたらはそれでもやはりあれのすすを望むのか
She slowly turned her gaze to the two remaining sisters. The pair exchanged looks amidst the heavy silence.
無論でございます。姉上様。
Their eyes glowed scarlet.
無論あれのすすを得れば全てをすすだくとの約束もちろん守る我は災いを下す者が誰であっても構わぬ兄上様のご無念が慰められるのならばだがあれは手強い陸奥の末裔侮るなかれ
Her sisters nodded. Their lips curved into fearless smiles. Toei felt something alien fall from her chest to her abdomen. It was like a fist-sized stone that had been jammed directly into her stomach. That pain, like her body was full of stones, had increased yet again, signaling her destruction was nigh. The 1,000-year curse wouldn't stay sealed for long. But if so, then for what reason had she suffered all these years? At least if she died with the calamity still sealed within her, she would have something to show for all her suffering, however small. It was under that belief her countless selves had suffered and died over the past millennium. That cycle was finally reaching its conclusion. No, its ruin. The quintuplet spell was gone. There was no longer any way to postpone the curse. It was as though she and all her past selves had only lived to bring about the calamity in this era. Just then, a distant memory of long ago flashed through Toei's mind. A memory of the will left behind by the mother who died giving birth to her. Knowing the daughter she'd never see would inherit her suffering, her mother had left behind a letter as an apology. Toei believed she would do the same if she ever became pregnant. There was another letter that came with the will. Alright, why don't we stop right there? This is audapostrophe. You've been watching Iwaihime on PC. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.